brother Baba Roy Lewis. Iconic. Yes. Give this brother his flowers now. His time is fleeting. Yes, everyone. My name is Maria Jones, and I've been a staff member here for the past 8 years, and I'm happy to be joined by Mr. Eric White. Just real quick, the restrooms are just out this door to the right and the left. There are another set of restrooms upstairs on the second floor. We want to encourage you, just right on time. We want to encourage everybody to check out the Black books of all kinds, photography books, not just to check them out, but to actually go and check them out at the circulation desk. Okay, because what's happening is Black books are disappearing from the library shelves because y'all aren't checking them out. I'm telling you, I'm seeing it with my very own eyes. So we must do this. All of those books, by the time we get finished with this program, all of them should be gone. Check it out. Okay, if you don't have your library card, DC, Maryland, or Virginia, you can get that today. Just stop by the circulation desk. What else?
Any books you get out?
We do not have books for sale, but we will, the Friends of the Library, do book sales occasionally. We have some, if you go on to dclibrary.org, there are a plethora of online resources that everybody should be using. If you're a student, if you're somebody that likes to research, go to our databases. We have, Freegold, Canopy, all online. And of course, this is a community gathering spot. Real quick, we want to thank Irene Kellogg, who's a photographer herself, who was signing folks in. Irene Kellogg, get the people away. Hopefully moving to her next year. All right, afternoon with Irene Kellogg. Right? Stacy Hill, who's a volunteer. Gloria Dyer, Denise Barnes, Miss Graham, who is our branch manager. So let us begin. I'm going to say thank you, Baba Roy Lewis. Thank you, Mr. White. I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me all right? Yes. Brother Lewis and I will be sharing a mic for the moment. Our handhelds are not cooperating. And as Ms. Jones said, we would like to welcome you here today, and we're for an exciting program. Today, we're going to be talking to Roy Lewis, spending an afternoon with him, and taking a look at some of his work and the many things that he's been involved with over the years. Mr. Lewis is 86 years young. And still enjoys doing what he does. Yeah. Later on today, he's going to share his pop-up exhibition with us. Some photographs that have been packed up for several years now. And I think it was for another show, and he just kind of, that he used those photos and used some others or something. And it's been sitting in his closet. So he's going to unveil some work that hasn't been seen and share with us and tell some of those stories. I want to also mention here that Roy has an exhibition that just opened in New York City. Just finished installing with some other photographers in New York City at the Richard Gray Gallery, which is located at 1018 Madison Avenue in New York. So if anyone happens to be going up to New York and want to kind of put that on your agenda as a possible place to stop over while you're there, please do. That exhibit runs from the 26th to from now until December 26th.
27.
22nd. Okay. And the show is called So Be It. Photographic echoes.
So be it, I say. I say the important word in there, you know, I don't
So be it, Ashe.
All right.
Photograph. Oh, yeah. Good.
This is
Yeah. Photographic echoes of Festac 77. The show is open. Oh, and I just mentioned that the show just recently opened, and he's there with 2 other photographers. And so be sure to take a look at that. Festac 77 unveils visual documentation of one of the most significant, lesser-known cultural events of the 20th century. This was the second Black and African Festival of Art and Culture held in Lagos, Nigeria in 1977, which brought about 17,000 artists from all over Africa and the Black diaspora worldwide. So I'd like to have a little clip shown of this festival, so you see a little bit about what it was about, and then we're going to have Roy to talk about Festac 77 and his involvement with it as a photographer.
There's no sound.
On the same stage, artists from places like Cuba, Ethiopia, Guinea, Guyana, Ivory Coast, Jamaica, Kenya, Mauritania, Nigeria, Senegal, Somalia, Sudan, Tanzania, Trinidad, Tunisia, Uganda, and the United States shared their music, their dance, their songs, their poetry. Thousands came to appreciate the seemingly endless cultural exchange. The dance presentations range from traditional to modern. Speaking from the talking club, the space stage sound, sun run, maybe the keynote thing. The expert records remind them of the exercise of yourself. The highest of step rocket. No schedule to perform. No special case. Camera from coming to plays that gave graphic depictions.
Keep morning.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've been having some technical challenges today, but we're going to get through this, and we just need to get a power cord for this computer. So Roy, why don't you walk us through your connection with Festac 77, and you were part of a representative group from this country who went over, and so tell us more about that.
I mean, we have to jump right into Festac, man. You know, I'm a little more than Festac.
No,
I see the itinerary. See, that's why I asked you for the show so that I would know. But no, let's just deal with the images were there. You want to go just Festac and then go back? It's like that. Okay. So Festac started as the second World Festival. So that first one was in Senegal, 10 years earlier, so that'd be 60. And so the State Department were the ones who basically put that together. They selected the Tyler, paid for all, the hotel and all that. So we had issues. That's like 77 was supposed to be in 75. And I've got both posters. I've got the 75 poster and the 77 poster. I haven't had it evaluated yet, but, so, I'm part of, in Chicago, we did the wall of respect. Some of those same people went to Festival. There was the Chicago delegation, I was part of the DC delegation. So you had the countrywide up in districts and areas, zones. So I went with DC, New York. And then the second plane was basically Chicago, West Coast. And so we went in there not really knowing, because if everybody, actually, FestAct was on hold. Everybody was like in a wave pattern, so we didn't know whether or not the plane was going out. And actually, Jeff said, well, he was saying, well, we gotta have both breakfasts. If we're not there, if we don't take that first plane, we're not gonna be gone. So we went to Nigeria, about 150 of us on that plane, not knowing whether or not the second plane was coming. Andrew Young, Carter came in, this is 77. Andrew Young was made ambassador to the UN, so he negotiated the second plane. And so I stayed the whole time. I was supposed to come back to America on the first plane, but I said, no, it's not over. So I covered the whole FestAct. They had houses, buildings for us. I think we had 3 buildings, three or 4-story buildings. It was called FestAct Village. And so you had 16,000 participants. That's what we had a badge on saying participants. And so it was like nothing. It was like the United Nations of black people in one place. And one of the buildings, the lower first floor, would be the cafeteria. And then over here, then in town, we had some very modern buildings. I was talking to Marilyn Nash. She called me this morning. Marilyn Nash has got a book out. This is not a book here. She's got another book out that's already out. It's just in second printing already, because when people see it and just get the spirit of it, it grabs you. And this cover here, this is Ozir Muhammad's cover. Ozir, he's retired from the New York Times now. And so, well, since I've got to talk about it, I have about 15 or 16 pictures in here. And I'm just going to go to the center spread. I'm not going to try to, the center spread, it's just like, it's all right there. You know what I mean? It's one of the best ebony covers ever. And this is the way these guys, each delegation were coming around. I mean, get music. It's almost like their little country going around. Now, the U.S. didn't have we didn't have American flag. We came around like we was marching, fist up. I'm telling you, like fist up and stuff. Now, when we left, it was a little more organized. We had the U.S. FestAct sign, you saw that there. But it was a lot of hard work, because they had 3 performances played, Sports Hall, Talawafa Bebo Spare. And the schedule was all day. I mean, you'd be into the night. And so you rotate, people were rotating in and out of those. The National Theater, this is my shot. And this is the shot that they chose to blow up to 30 by 40 or something. It's huge. And so, and I didn't even know that there was a lady right there, they blew it up real large, so, So anyway, my experience there was covering. I mean, I was kind of with the North American Zone, but everybody went who was an artist. You had to go by committee. You had to be selected. I had 2 photos. A barn banjo player from New Orleans and my daughter, Safi, because she was living in the West Indies, like Roster and all that. But we were working, they were still building the village. Every morning, those guys were put going down the road. And so, of course, I would go with them. But we stayed, I got a chance, was fortunate enough to go to Kaduna. Kaduna in here is, it's a Durbar, it's a military exercise. But the horsemen, and I'm going to not talk, I didn't want to talk too much on this because there's so much other stuff I really want to deal with. But I want to show you that center spread, that you can see the dynamics. This is Stevie and Mary McKee. happens to tribute to the leaders, they charge the stand. I mean, they're from North, then they, and so, you know, so I was shooting a black and white camera and a color camera and a Bolex. I would put the Bolex between my legs and hold it, shoot that shot in the proportions. That's what I was talking about. You see that? Now, like I said, this 70, May 77, you know, you might be able to get one, you never know. So it was, you pray for that kind of thing to happen. You know, you wonder if, I called it the Olympics of culture. Lerone Bennett wrote the editorial, and he called it the 29 days that shook the world. And I added something that said the 29 days of African culture that shook the world. You know, and whether or not it would ever happen again, I pray, but I don't know, we don't know. Not at that scale.
And we start there because that ties into the exhibition that's in New York City. And I wanted you to see a little bit about what that is about, and have him talk about that, and invite you to try to go up there if you can. In Roy's words, we have come on faith in terms of the festival, not knowing what was going to happen, and that's what he spoke about. But all artists from all countries had one thing in common. We wanted it to be a success. We wanted it to be so all of us came together in one place, at least once in a lifetime, and it happened. So that's kind of
We did it. That's what. So look, that's a gallery in New York, and this is supposed to be an afternoon with me. I really would like to go back to Mississippi, and
We're gonna get you there. Yeah. Yes. So we're gonna get you there.
Okay.
So at this point, Roy, we're here in Washington, and we want to get you to talk about things in Washington, but at this point, we want to hear your story about where you were born, your Mississippi connections, and moving on from there in terms of how you got into photography and what were some of the influences in your early life.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. That's what I was actually saying.
Yeah. So we were giving you a plug, you know?
Really?
Yeah.
So anyway, I was born in 1937, in July 24th, 1937. And my mother, Elizabeth Lewis, was going to name me Joe Louis. Now, she thought a lot of me, apparently. Joe Louis, champion of the world. And so, but her grandfather, Philip Roy, who lived down the little path in a sort of a log cabin kind of thing with dirt floors. And how many of you all seen the Eugene Smith picture of the two kids going through the opening? W. Eugene Smith, he worked with Life. He was a great photographer. But he got behind them and they went to an opening, you know, like an area open. It's a fantastic photo. But I remember him carrying me two years old, holding me going to that little log cabin with those dirt floors. I don't remember what he was telling me, but I've done pretty good. But he's the one who told my mother that, no, you name him Roy Lewis. 35 years later, no, 60 years later, 70 years later, I found out that was her maiden name, my mother's maiden name. So my mother is Roy, his last name is Roy. And so that meant that the Roy came forward. And I ain't done too bad with it, you know. And but Madea is my mother's name. At the 40th census, on the census it said Joe R. Lewis. Yeah, and a friend of mine was in the census and saw that, and he made printed out. I never would know. I didn't even know it. And so I left Mississippi, I left Shieldsburg, which was a Jewish plantation, Shieldsburg, and moved up the road on Highway 61 to Oakland, which was a Creole plantation, owned by the Maziques, Dr. Mazique's family, on 13th. If you lived down if you went down into the Bay, his house down there was Oakland. You know, he married Harry Belafonte's wife. And so anyway, it was left there, went to Natchez, went to Sadie B. Thompson High School, graduated. Only went out for one position on the football team, that was quarterback. I didn't want to play anything else, I got the quarterback. And left Natchez in '56. My godmother, Mattie B. Frazier, told me, now Joe, when you go to Chicago, if you go by Ebony, you tell Johnny. I said, hello. Oh, okay, godmother. So I went there looking for jobs in Chicago, and then I finally went down there, and then they were like doing tours. This switchboard operator was a tourist guy. So she walked me around, and so I could always tell a story. And so she wound up at Mr. Johnson's door, knock on the door, Mr. Johnson come out. He said, Mr. Johnson, this is Roy Lewis from Natchez, Mississippi. I said, Mr. Johnson, my godmother told me to tell you hello. Oh, Miss Mattie B. Frazier, she taught me in high school. Then the young lady said, he looking for a job. And thank goodness I had taken vocational in high school where I worked in a printing shop. So I had mechanical stuff. And so I started there in '56 the next week in the subscription department, which is, at the time, I really didn't think how important it was, but your ad rate is determined by your confirmed subscription rate. That's what runs it. And so I had a good time in there. We were on those metal named like dog tags, addressograph. We went to Remington ran punch cards, then IBM, then computer. I couldn't deal with the programming. So that was my start with Ebony, and later on I started doing assignments, and my first flick and jet was Thelonious Monk at Ravenna. Okay, and so I think that was around 64, 65. And then I began to do stories with Ebony. My teachers were Mr. Johnson. I studied Mr. Johnson every day. I just studied him. Then LaRon, Herbert Nipson. Herbert Nipson was the Ebony editor. Bob Johnson was the jet editor. And Mr. Johnson was, he had the first picture phone in his office. I had never seen one, he had it. Bob Johnson showed me the first picture transmitter. He said, Roy, this is the future. This is what's going to be transmitting pictures. I had left Johnson. I left Johnson in '68. I moved here in '78, or '74. And, you know, I did a lot of stuff in Chicago. I tell people I did my most important work before I came here. '60s, Dr. King got killed. While I was there, I did the marches with Dick Gregory. This is a newspaper up in, I work at the Washington Informer now, but I'm saying this is a newspaper up in Minnesota. And this is, you know, the cover of his book. So I covered his funeral, Dick Gregory. I remember when Dick Gregory was about 300 pounds, drinking a fifth of liquor every day. Yeah, but he would go out and get the money, and we would march. He would march every day. Every day. I just want to show you the spread, because this was like a funeral. Here. This was his funeral. It was like here, then Howard did it, then on. But it's an interesting paper. The size always gets me. And I do work with them from time to time. And then, of course, our paper. This is my boss, one of my boss. First lady.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm going to move away from this. I want to.
Need you to hold up the mic. Let me hold it up so that the people in the back can see. What, you said what date is that?
It was at, Kingston. Anyway, I don't, the date is on the story, you can, it's right there it's right there at the top of the page.
Okay, well, these are recent photos, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
within the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Okay, so, when you say what kind of work that you do, this, I'm trying to tell a story about what happened at that event. And, not just pose, there are posed pictures, but there's another way to do it so it doesn't look so posed. And so I had a great time that night. Okay,
Some of these
I'm in
pictures-
DC now, right?
No, tell us a little bit more about some of the photographers that influenced you when you were at Ebony and Jet.
I bought my first camera in Natchez when I was in 1955. The little Brownie, you sent it off to Kodak. And now, but the quarterback, the football team, we had a day where we went to school in old folks' clothes, flat tops, bell bottoms. And so while we were out there posing, I gave my camera to somebody else to take it. Now, I now have that picture in my collection everywhere Roy Lewis. And when I noticed that some other pictures that I took, I actually leaned down, which is one of my things. I like the low angle. And so for me to have started doing that at 18, you see what I'm saying? And the piece the thing about consistency, the word that I like, I was trained by some of the best photographers in the world. Cartier-Bresson, I never met him, but he's a great photographer. This guy I was telling you about, Smith, Moneta Sleep, Gordon Parks, Roy DeGarala. The book that it's really got in my head was Family of Man. A young lady friend of mine. But I was always talking photography. I was saying, that's a good picture, that's a good picture. So get a camera. So she wouldn't bought me Family of Man, which is one of the greatest photography because it deals with life, birth, work, life, or later years, and death. Now, I think they might have two photographers in there, over 100 photographers from all over the world. Family of Man, and then Sweet Flypaper, Gordon Parks, with Roy DeGarala,
So
Langston Hughes.
were those some of the photographers that influenced your style of photography in terms of capturing Black life and culture?
Yeah. I consider myself a street photographer. I know lighting and I know studio, but I like the natural. The reason why I like this phone, this extreme wide angle, because it's wide. A lot of guys like to shoot telly because, they want to get a close-up. But, one of my instructors said, look, you can always crop or add, but if you ain't got the information, you can't add it.
That's right.
You see? And so this camera on here, which is $1 billion, probably more, developing this camera over the years, I still shoot, that's my 35 up there. I now have redid my, not redid it, but had it brought up to date, my film Leica. I love film.
Yeah.
I still love film.
And I want to get to film and some of the videography shots that you took and some of the people that, you actually ended photographs like Gwendolyn Brooks and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yeah.
And, but tell us a little bit about your connection with the Chicago Defender while you were in Chicago. You mentioned Ebony and Jet, but you also did something with them, right?
Yeah, well, I was a freelance photographer. I had 3 children, man. I had to work. Mr. Johnson didn't pay no whole lot of money, so I had to work out of basement. I had a doctor in my basement. I would literally do an assignment, go home, process it, and bring the contact sheets in and give them to Bob Johnson. I still had to go to work. I had to go to work at 9 o'clock. So, film. And one of my health thing now is because of those chemicals, and not having ventilation, going in there and coming out 2 or 3 hours later, bronchitis. You know, so, but in an environment where you see the product from the beginning, see Norman Hunter laying out jet cover, Ebony Herbert Nipson, and seeing the magazine being created. This cover here, I actually have pictures of Herbert Nipson doing this. I literally have a photograph of him doing his drumming. Yeah. And I have some photos in here. Yeah, I have some photos in here that they did a piece on black men. And Ebony, the loss of this Ebony, I mean, they moved into the smaller, but this Ebony here was, it was like I say that Jet was the first internet. Yeah, first internet. And to be in that environment and the positive energy that, every day you're living in that environment.
What was the Black Arts movement in Chicago about? And did you have images that were in some of the Ebony or Jet or other places connected with that?
Yeah, I did a spread on the I did a spread on the Muslims. I did a spread on Gwendolyn Brooks, Miss Brooks, I'm sorry. I wrote a piece. I wrote a piece because I was trying to get them to, they were celebrating their 80th birthday. And so I was kind of like one of her official photographers. I like this picture here. This is like an attitude. Look at that attitude.
Let me hold it up.
No, I got it.
Okay, you got it.
So this is Boys Black. Boys Black by Gwendolyn Brooks. Oh, no. Somebody got to read some of that. Just read a little bit of that, just because that ancestral spirit. Read that. Here.
Which part you want?
It's the whole page.
Okay. Boys black, black boys, be brave to battle for your breath and bread. Your heads hold clocks that strike the new time of day. Your hearts are legislating summer weather now, cancel winter. Up, boys, boys black, black boys, invade now where you can or can't prevail. Take this, there's fertile ground beneath the pseudo ice. Take this, sharpen your hatchets, force into the grain. And boys, in all your turnings and your churnings, remember Africa. You have to call your singing and your bringing, your pulse, your ultimate booming in the not so narrow temples of your power. You have to call all that. That is your poem, Africa. Although you know so little of that long, leap languid land, our tiny union is the over-thoughtful magnificent. It is the busy, simple thing. Say, salvage, legislate, enact our inward law in the precincts of nightmare, all contrary. You with our girls, our hope for our enhancement, hurry, force through the sludge, wild, thick scenery subdue, because the itis leaders flutter, tilt, and fail.
All right.
I was her photographer, and we worked at Northeastern together. I knew her before that. And when she saw my exhibit, Black and Beautiful, my first major exhibit, Black and Beautiful, that opened right here in Chicago. Right here in D.C. in 1967, at Gaston Neal's New School of Afro-American Thought. And I met Gaston in Detroit at a conference, Black Power conference. And he invited me to do an exhibition for his second year anniversary with Leroy Jones, and they had a whole weekend. So I came in on Friday, had over 100 pieces, and hung the show on Friday. And that was the weekend that white SNCC group went to the Pentagon. Remember the picture, the rose in the M1? Well, the black people came to town, they didn't go to the Pentagon. We marched down U Street, across Howard campus, and had a rally on Banneker Field where Gaston was burning the American flag. And then my show opened after that. Sterling came to my show, Mr. Brown, I'm sorry. And so, but at that show, I met a guy who's from New York. He said, your work need to come to New York. And so, guy from Philly, Pittsburgh. So the show left D.C., it was in D.C. a month. November, it opened October 1st, went to County Cullen Gallery, and then it went to Southside Community Arts. Ms. Brooks came, I had tabulating paper for reaction, for people to sign. She said, you're a trailblazer. Because what I figured out later, my work is like her writing. Yeah, I mean, it's you can feel it. I mean, the boys with the boys in the pool room, the abortion poem gets me. So anyway, that's.
So what was your connection with Sterling Brown? You just mentioned his name.
Well, 65.
And Sterling Brown was here in Washington,
He lives on
D.C.
Kearney Street. We're in his neighborhood. I'm dedicating this whole thing to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lerone Bennett brought Mr. Brown they had a group called Armistead. And when I saw him reading, I said, what's this white boy talking like we talk down? I did. I thought he was an old white boy. And so when I went up to him, when I said Natchez, because he did a lot of research in Natchez. I mean, he did a whole chapter on Natchez. Sterling Brown books is Southern Road, Negro Caravan, and then he was working on another book. And what's happening is that people would come, and then you'd help them, and then they get their books out. But Negro Caravan and Southern Road is one of the greatest books, but people know about his poetry. They don't know about his essays. His essays is off the chain. And so I would advise people to read his essays because he did things on the tragic Negro, he was my hero. I selected him, and I was his last student. When he went to the nursing home, he stopped eating. And so the lady said, can you get him to eat? I said, oh, no, he done decided, he done made a decision. Yeah. But I would travel with him when collected poems, Michael Harper's collected poems come out, I would travel with him. And of course, Daisy, because he didn't need to be traveling by himself. Mm-hmm. And so I was fortunate enough to be in some situations with him and other writers and one of the times he told me, he said, now, all the images that you have of me, you own. He knew what might be coming. And this is my last Sterling Brown piece. When he died, he had an adopted son. And the family house was here. His house was here on the same plot. And his son and the wife, they put the house up for sale. And his stuff was still in it. I mean, I went in there, and it was like, God, these people walking through it. And Sterling was a very private person. He was very private. Yeah. Man, I had to get out of there because it was like somebody stabbing me, I said, whoa. But anyway, I learned a lot from him. I mean, I really did. And he peeped that I talked my writing. So he told me, he said, you all need to record yourself. And so there's the word griot, raconteur. He was a raconteur. I think I got a little of griot. I learned a lot from him. What's next?
Yeah. Sterling Brown, in case some of you don't know, was a professor emeritus at Howard University for several years. And when I worked at Howard University, and his office was in the tower, on the third floor of Founders Library, which is practically on the roof of the building. And he was up there for years and years, and I used to I had the honor of, meeting him and going and seeing him from time to time.
It wasn't an office, it was a closet.
Yeah.
But
he held on to it.
Baldwin, I took pictures of Baldwin when Baldwin was retracing his step from the 40s with the English film crew. I got both of them in there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it was close. I have a picture of him that I like. That the guy who ran the Harvard Black Studies program. It's a funny name. Somebody know the name? He was the first one. Yeah. Anyway, he had a reading in Boston, and so I got this picture of this guy, Sterling, in one of the room. I said, man, I'm not gonna stay in a room this small, so I went and got a bigger room. Once he got in there, he said, so I've got Garnier, that's his name, Garnier. He had his feet up on Sterling, on bed. These guys have been through a lot. You know, everybody's talking about hard times now, but.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Thrilla in Manila and your connection with that as a
That wasn't
photographer.
Manila, that was Zaire.
That was in, okay.
Zaire. Yeah. Thrilla in Manila had already happened. Thrilla in Manila was with Joe.
Okay.
No, but the
But Muhammad Ali-
Zaire 74. And that's Ali and Foreman. Yahya Masekela was one of the people, Stuart Levine. And I went over on the plane. Ali had already gone over, so I went over on the plane. What's
Hold
going
that
on?
thought for a minute. I think they're going to show a little clip of that.
Ali and Foreman?
Yeah, the rumble in the jungle. And then we'll let you talk about it. Just a short clip, and just bring back memories of that moment in time. And
Audio. Yeah, that was a heavy night. I had my Bolex camera, and I really wanted to bring it in, but they took it. They wouldn't let me take it in. This is When We Were Kings. This film is called When We Were Kings. You can buy this film. I wanted to be by the ropes. I mean, you know, shooting from the ropes where Frank Sinatra and all those other guys.
yeah, so where were you when you were shooting?
No, what they did was they took my camera. I got it back, but they put me on the main camera podium. There was only one other photographer. The guy was shooting for Life, and Life had set up a lab underneath the stadium, and the runner was. He would give him a roll of film. He'd go and he'd bring the film back so he could look at the film. And I'm on that platform. And so I had a 200. I needed really a 300, but I had a 200. But it gave me a full length. All of my pictures, I don't think there's ever a shot of Ali hitting Foreman or Foreman hitting him. Foreman beat himself, swinging, and then they roped it up. See, what happened is, you know, their training camp was, Foreman would train in the morning, Ali would train in the afternoon. I watched Foreman. Foreman would hit the bag and he would hit it in the whole, lock his arm like that. That means that if he hit him in the chest or in his ribs, he'd break a rib. Because he would hit the bag, and I could see him turn his fist. Of course, some other guys would watch, so they loosened the ropes.
Now, when Roy talks about he had a 200, he's talking about a 200
Millimeter
millimeter lens. So it allowed him to get in closer to where the action was taking
it was
place.
An F4. These photographers, it was an F4. So I have no tripod. I had to hold it pretty steady. But that robe Ali had on, and I got him knocked down. I mean, I got him knocking down. But later, like I said, that was the main camera they were broadcasting. I mean, the main camera on position.
So were you shooting for someone, or were you there capturing this?
I was on the production team. There was a festival, music festival first, the first 2 weeks, and then it was supposed to go straight to the fight. But Foreman cut his eye. I don't know if that was real or not, because the stadium wasn't really ready. You know, and the technology there, they had this recording studio just like in New York or something underneath the stadium. The lighting grid was on a crane. You know, and when Lord Price was on the stage, I was working in overalls, and I didn't wear no suits, I just worked in overalls. And so they wanted to put me, they knew I was from Mississippi, and so my position was right at the bottom of the mic. And they called me, Roy, get on the stage, take the camera on the stage and film. You know, they do that now a lot more, but that wasn't something they were doing then. Okay, let's move.
Yeah, we do need to move. Tell us about your exhibition, Roy Lewis Everywhere. And as you know, and a lot of you in this room know, you've seen Roy a lot of different places. And he has an exhibition that's called Roy Lewis Everywhere.
Everywhere with Roy Lewis.
Yeah. And so tell us about that and some of the images in there. And I think that the images you have in there go back several decades, right? In terms of the amount of work that's there.
It's everywhere. What happens is people see me and they say, I see you everywhere. And everywhere is one of the most popular marketing words now. They promote films. Promote films. Capital One needs to send me a check. No. The first one with Jackson, when they said they walk down the hall, the doors, they fall down, and he said everywhere. They're still using it. NBC 4 here, it's on the screen in the cab. NBC everywhere. They use it to promote films. And it's interesting because they use a similar type when you see it. So it's like that programming thing, you know, I have one here. Can you just talk for a minute? I have actually the first slide.
Roy has been in, and I was going to get him to talk about some of his, the photo books that he's been a part of. He has books that he has put together, and he's, has, what?
Okay, you see that. I mean, you see it all the time. And so I take pictures of it. I take pictures. And once you see it or say it, it becomes part of your vocabulary because it can be used in so many different ways. This is the slide. And I said I had meant to have him make copies of that.
Okay, well, we'll make copies and make sure you get this, you know, when you get a chance to talk to Roy.
I like photography because it forces you to look at things hard. Yeah. And I think you got it right. I mean, I did, last night I did Halloween. I walked from K Street all the way up to Mount Main. I'm telling you, everybody, I will say, you can't say, everybody, let's just say I took a lot of pictures of naked angels. They were naked, I mean, look.
So Roy is everywhere, as he said, but that exhibit has been a number of places.
It started with the flyer. It started in 2008 at the Essen Music Festival with the flyer. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. What happened is Gina Montana, who runs the marketplace, and is a good friend of mine. She's a yellow Pocahontas and does her own uniform. Beautiful sister, Gina Montana. Her daughter, by 1 o'clock, she was like at the coffee place in Jackson Square. And so I always carry stuff. Denise says, oh, you carry too much stuff. But I showed her the pictures, some of my pictures, black and white. She said, well, this needs to be in the music, in the Essen Music Festival. We don't have no room no more. But she said we can get space in the lobby where those people died, right? And so she got $500 from the mayor's office. I gave the $500 to Bruce, who did my framing in New Orleans. We got about 40 pieces. We created a room right outside by getting petitions. And thank goodness, this is one, no, this is not, this is a festival. But what I'm saying is that being on site, having your negatives, having your pictures, and then everywhere moved from New Orleans to Mount Rainier. Yeah, I left it in New Orleans for about a year. And then Steve Newsom, oh man, he said, well, anybody else gonna do this? He gave me a show. And then it moved from there to DuSable Museum. And yeah, then we opened in Natchez, celebrating its 300th anniversary. We did it there, then we did it we just did it in Jackson. And so I really wanted to do a HBCU tour. It's a teaching show. Because in Natchez, Natchez is a town that was colonized by the French, the British, and the Spanish. And of course, the Natchez Indians were there first. And so a teacher came up to me after, she said, Mr. Lewis, this exhibit brought tears. This is a white teacher. She said, this exhibit, because the image, one of the things I like about photography is that when I left Natchez, I said, I want to change the world. And then I figure out later that if you can get a person to look at something, and then it can literally change their mind about something, that same situation. And if it's the right situation, you know, and so, and I write with pictures. I write with pictures. And now I'm kind of beginning to write things down.
Can we talk about Save the Children? So we can kind of keep this party moving forward. There's a couple other questions we want to ask you.
Ooh,
We're going to show you a quick clip, and I think we got to power back again, and then have you talk about that.
Boy,
And that was back in 1973.
right. Save the children, man.
We got black film producers, and just as we can produce Shad and Superfly, we can produce Kush Black Expo.
I'm in one of these shots.
All over the world,
I was cameraman.
and our very best.
Not that one. That's the cameraman.
The place was Chicago, but it could have been anywhere. They came together this year as they have in years of the past and will in years to come. They came together from the corners of the world, the corners of the nation, the corners of the cities, the corners of the streets. Over 1 million black people in search of self-determination, political unity, and economic stability. They found great displays of hundreds of businesses and organizations serving and benefiting the black people of the world. They found
Let this play. Let this play. Let this play. You're gonna see the names. These are the people. Okay. So, because I lived in Chicago, at our first production meeting, Dan Latham, the guy who edited this film, George Bauer, won an Oscar for Midnight Cowboy. And so they gave me the words of Save the Children. And so I had to go out and shoot pictures to go with this song. And the station wagon that we used, we put one of those tripods on top of the hood. And so that if I had to move out, because we filmed in Woodlawn, Blackstone Ranger territory. And so, you know, when interpreting, photography, when you get into interpreting, I know the song, but we had to drive around and shoot these shots here. Yeah. It's some of the best work. I mean, I really feel like that was some of my best work. Yeah.
So were you working as a photographer or videographer at this point?
I was a cameraman.
You was a cameraman.
But I shot a lot of stills, too, from my position. There were 9 black cameramen with doing this. This thing happened a week, man. There you go.
So Rory has been everywhere.
So now I think there'll be some questions.
So, just a couple minutes
Yeah.
about what this was.
It won an Oscar. And when it played, we screened the film here. in one of the coldest nights. It was like we up in Bethesda, man. I'm driving the Volkswagen. I had to use antifreeze on the window. But I told Denise, I said that night it's going to win an Oscar. Then I said it was going to win an Oscar. It won the Oscar. Now there's another film called Soul Power, which is the music festival. I'm telling you, find that one. It's Soul Power.
Some of these films that he's talking about, you can find on our site called Canopy, which is a free access site to a lot of documentaries and old film. And also you can probably check YouTube and some other places to find some of these things. Some of these old Ebony magazines, you go to the library website and get back issues through some of our sites. And it's important that we know about some of these places because, like, Roy is keeping this, but we want to make sure people can get access while they're researching the future. Roy has won a number of different awards for his work over the years, and I want to kind of bring it home a little more because, like we alluded to, what we can do with these devices. When Roy was talking. And a lot of things he did, he said that he was in a dark room several hours and working with chemicals. And, when you shot in the early days, you had film cameras that only held 20 to 36 images that you could keep, and then you had to go get another roll, and then you had to either pay someone to, process it for you, or you had to process it yourself. It was a lot of work. So, looking at the state of photography today, what do you think about the changes, the accessibilities, how work is preserved and how work is recognized as you as an artist? Mm-hmm. Like that people can just get things so easily.
Yeah. Well, I held out long, I was like, man, I'm shooting film. And I would have it processed and put on a disc, And then, I realized it was, my son worked in a camera store. He was always way ahead. He's trying to get me to switch. But I love film. I still like film. But you have, you've got new tools. This is just a tool. It's a tool that has been created but you still need to keep developing, don't get locked in, I love shooting flowers, landscapes, I like to shoot in the afternoon, 4 till 6 or 7. I think that's the time I was born too, because, I think that's the light, I like that light. The morning is blue, noon is contrasty, and the afternoon. And I find myself, I do sequence. I might take this one picture here, this design here, and then boom, I'll see something else and go, and then it'd be over, But that whole, what was your question?
About how the technology has changed so radically that anybody with a device can sit in.
I tell everybody that they're photographers. At Art Institute in Chicago, and I said, look here, you're a photographer, but clean your lens. People be walking around, they don't never clean the lens. They put it in the wallet, they get all, and from your fingertips. So clean your lens. I have a photo here that I shot portraits. I don't say selfies with my camera, my regular camera. And I looked at that picture there are 6 people in there. Denise is one of them. I shot at the convention center. And let me get this one. You hold it up high, like it's 18.
Yeah.
So you hold it up high, so that when I hold it up high, and you are there, you get all the people. And I was at the convention center. The film, oh man, it's like a classic piece. This was before selfie. The word was not, people, I've been shooting self-portrait since I got my camera in the Army in 61. And one of the things I want to do is to blow that up almost to a wall size, because I was on my way to the post, on my way to to the mess hall to have lunch. And I was passing a guy, he said, "You want to buy a camera?" And so he said, "How much?" I said, "How much?" $25. It was a Ryko bayonet. It's Ryko camera with the advanced lever underneath, 43 millimeter. But I took a shot of myself, of my shadow. So the sun was about 1 o'clock high, and Fort Sam is an old post, brick. And so the water was coming in. So I'm standing up, held the camera up here, so my shadow is in that trenches, and right about where my heart is rippling. I've never really blown it up really, really big. But so when you get into interpretation, it's like, what's going on? I mean, you can't be just shooting some people standing there looking at the camera. You got to go out and get the real, what's happening, what's going on. I relate to that, so. When is the questions going to start?
We wanted to ask you about the civil rights movement
Oh,
and some of the images that were connected with that.
this is one of my most famous pictures. Dr. King. I call it Dr. King and Jesse Jackson and their legions. The Romans, when they came back from conquering the world, they had those big gold things that they held up, and the MAGA people used it. That's what they did when they had those big things up. They got it from here. The End of Sun movement was the V. Now, Dr. King lived on the west side. And so after he got assassinated, 68, 69, I got $3,000 from the Illinois Arts Council. They wanted me to take photos and put them up around the scheme. I said, "Nah, man, I ain't gonna do that." So Billy Abernathy said, "Yo, Roy, work it." And so I said, "Look, I'll do 3 walls, photographic walls, with Senstack, Bob Crawford. I was on the west side. Bob Crawford took Midtown. Senstack took Southwest. And so I had, in my exhibit, added larger prints, Black and Beautiful. So I knew where to go to get the larger prints. And they weatherized them. So there were 4. I had 2 prints on the wall of respect, Senstack had 2, and Billy Abernathy had 1. So that after we did the wall, I said, "Yo, let's do a photographic wall, West Wall."
So these pictures appeared where?
In Ebony.
In Ebony.
Yeah, in Ebony, it's in books. That's on the train, man, first class.
And this is part of his exhibit that he had related to
Oh, you got the train up there.
February.
See now, that train,
Yeah.
very few people know that that's my picture. Wow. And that's the one that's been painted by so many. This is the one I was telling the story about the guy who broke up Mirror and put it together. See, you're not seeing all of it, but you can see all the way down the trumpet. You can see the reason why it's so popular, because when you see the whole thing, it's almost like you can hear that sound. And he was playing across in front of him was Archie Shepp. They were literally trying to blow each other off the planet. I have one picture where, because of the angle of the light, there is like a bubble, circular bubble. Yeah, that's the one. See, now, here is my picture. Darlene Blackburn, the dancer. Now, she was in New York. She's still teaching dance for the opening. And this is Dale Cowhurst. This is mine here, this one. We were changing the name of Washington Park to Malcolm X. And so that was a place where people got together and talked and rallied. So the white ladies came out, and the sisters jumped on them. And then the police went to their trunks of their cars and got their shotguns and rifles. And I left. No, I had an assignment to take a cover shot of Oscar Brown Jr. doing Opportunity Please Now. It was on my only jet cover. My only jet cover. But now see what happens is, this is not the first wall. that dude, Edall, who put that big mural up over Crampton, Edall painted over Norman Parrish's picture, his painting. So this is the picture that went in ebony. So a lot of people never even saw the real, and, well, anyway, it didn't, and it went through even other changes. Because once that happened, Mr. Muhammad, he was in the religious section, and they began to complain. They didn't want to be in something that was going to be changing. And here you got Wall of Respect, but we never, it's because Gwendolyn Brooks' poem, we call it just a wall. Yeah.
So this picture of Obama?
Yeah, at the White House. I don't even remember which one of those, but I bought those red snakeskin boots at the African marketplace on Cottage Grove the last day because, you know, they don't want to take it home. And he was running for the Senate then. Yeah. And once he got elected, NNPA was going to the White House. I think this was like in March. And so for somehow or another, they targeted me, you know what I mean? I had to stay back. And so finally, they let me in. So I was running through the White House. The Secret Service say, oh, that's all right. I said, it's okay. So but if you're not in the room, you can't get in after the president. So I got in, the Secret Service said, it's all right, it's all right. So as soon as I got in the room, then he came in. You know? So my stories at the White House was pretty good. I went in with Clinton, too.
Roy Lewis everywhere.
So you're going to let the people ask some questions now, right?
Well, we want to get to the pop-up and have you
Oh,
talk
see,
about that in a minute, okay? So these are some pictures that he's had kind of secured in a closet for several years, and he's going to unveil them right now. And tell us a little bit about them, and then we'll do a question and answer, and I think that's all the time we're going to have.
Yeah,
And we're gonna have some
I was in New
questions
Orleans.
afterwards,
I was in
and I think we're going to need some scissors.
I did have six. I got it.
Oh, we got something here, we're right.
To the rescue.
Jim Danny to the rescue.
So while we're getting ready, do we have a question or two for Roy over here? Roy? Well, let him do this first because it's going to take him a minute to kind of pull stuff out. So you're seeing it here for the first time.
All right.
And when did you put this together and where were
You
you?
know, I was in New Orleans 3 years ago, and I was traveling. I was down there, and I was going to do this at this bookstore, community bookstore, and I went up to Mississippi, and I stayed longer than this one right here. Stayed longer than, just lay it down, longer than I expected. So when I came back, I had to come on back. Yeah, okay.
I'll hold the mic.
No, I'm gonna turn this around. No, just turn it around. Mm-hmm.
I'll hold them up when you give them.
No. Sorry. Whoa. That's that. Well, I'm not interested in, like all this stuff going out too much, but this is part of Festac. I've been looking for this. I've been looking. No, I really haven't. I forgot that. This is, no, it hasn't been in my closet. It's in my living room. This is Haki. Though he's got all the passports. Those are the Midwest passports coming out the front. Now, I got another director, my granddaughter back there, telling me what to do. Why do people always? Now, this young lady, Angela. Angela out of Chicago. Angela, she's a poet, writer. She was with Obasi Writers Workshop. Oh man, this is right on time. This is Val Gray Ward's theater. They're doing the what's that Douglas Turner Water play? where, day of absence, yeah. Okay, the story with that one is, when they were in Chicago, I ran out of color film. I rewound the film back in halfway and started shooting again. And so Douglas Turner Ward was actually in that play. And I shot color slides. And so Douglas was like pleading with them. And then one of the last shots when they came out to take their bow, that's Douglas Turner Ward, that overlapped. I had nothing to do with it. It was just the ancestors. I am really glad I found these. Ooh. That's the people having a meeting in front of our building. And then the vendors, they would come out because they looking for, they wanted to sell products. There we are.
You've been looking for that, huh?
No, man, the whole thing, man. This is opening day. Remember I told you about we walked around it with a march? Look at Lerone in there with his fist up. This is the opening day.
Is that Festac? Or where is that? Opening day of?
Festac.
Festac.
Well, yeah, don't boy. It's all Festac, man. This is all Festac.
This is all Festac, all right.
This is their fashion show. All African designers. January, I put January in Jet. I mean in Ebony, sorry. This is they assembling on the field on opening day. What happens in Africa, when I went to Africa in '74, I started studying where the equator was, because the light, when you go into a region that you're not normally shooting on, that's Laurent Bennett and Pierre Noël and Babatunde, who's now not with us. Babatunde. This group, ooh, man. This is the California group. Wajumbe, out of the Oakland Bay area. They did the boot dance? This is the Talawapapeva Square. This is also where Stevie performed. Cuba. 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 And this Cuba group, they came in really dark, really dark. It's in the exhibit in New York. And then the next picture you see is a brother with a kind of Hispanic lady on his hip. The idea was they were talking about the mergers of Africa and the Spanish. This is Minister Farrakhan and Abana. Think about what's happening here. Just think about what's happening. She's gone, because Farrakhan's still here. But, whoa, Queen Mother. This is Queen Mother Moore. When the ambassador, U.S. ambassador, gave us a reception, this cat blew a trumpet. Man, I'm leaving. She said, oh, boy, stay. Now we had gone through a process. So then the closing day, you see, we got the right, we're doing it the right way, our red, black, and green flag. This group was from Detroit. Ooh. The Durbar. The Durbar. These guys were riding these stallions. When I went up on the train was just about empty because the delegations had to perform. And the brother who was a soldier was telling me the history of the area, and it's Fela. That's Fela. Fela Ransome-Cooney. The first time I went to the shrine was the first night after we got through and that's all became discos. And so, woo. Now, I showed Larry Neal, I put together a couple of trades and I showed him Festac. He said, Roy, apply for a grant. So I got $3,000. I did about 35 or 40 pieces. And I went to Masonite, mounted, because when you're doing an exhibit, if you don't work out how you're gonna closeness and all of that, see, when you do an exhibit on the wall like this, no frames, you can then close. You see, you can then, okay? The Ethiopian Pavilion. The Festac was supposed to be going, I see you, Carl, I see you. But anyway, so now, this is probably one of the most important pictures here because it was the second plane arriving and we came out to greet them. And at some school, I'll just say some school, this thing got to this person. They literally went up into it and scratched it, you see? I made another print, but I kept this one because this was somebody that really, you know. So I always, when I'm talking to the kids, I always say, okay, evaluation 1 to 10, how did I do?
Important question.
Sunrise?
An important question we want to ask as we come to a close here is, do you consider yourself to be a griot?
Right.
And what are your plans for preserving and passing on your work?
Very good question. Smitty. I met Smitty on the way to Guyana for the first time. Smitty's a photographer here in town. And he gave me my first permanent marker. Because up until that time, I was processing. And so you go on assignment. If you're not being paid, you put it in a bag, you put it to the side. Now, I've got a mountain of film. Because the gig, you're not being paid. I don't even understand why I could be here with that much film. I have a lot of film. So I'm getting ready to put together something called, every second you're losing history. Every second. Since we've been here, what happens with film is that it goes to black. Hundreds of rolls of film, I'm telling you, we are right now. Now you say, Roy, how do you deal with that? I can't stop and worry about that. The foundation at the Washington Post, Texera Nash, there was a project supposed to be in the fine art. Texera Nash wrote a proposal, and I wrote, write about your life. I did about 5 or 6 pages. I made a list of all the people in my collection. And they gave me the brother was over that foundation. They gave me $3,000 to process. Now, since then, we have lost a lot of history. I don't know how much. But what I wanted to do, I have enough film to go to Eastman Kodak when there was a real film process. That's look, I've got enough film for them to test and do special chemicals to process. Okay, that's doable. And they're not in an icebox or anything. They're in cool places, and they'll let most of them are labeled. My father, in 1995, Fritz, one of my fathers, died. So I went to the funeral and shot 15 rolls of film. I still got the little plastic bag with the number of rolls, Fritz's funeral. I came back May, March, put it in a pile here. And so now I've been collecting those piles. I think I have them all together. It's a lot. It blew me away when I really, really realized how much I had, I said, okay. But the plan was to go to Eastman Kodak and say, look here, you got 50 rolls of film. Let's test and see if we can create chemicals, because I ain't the only one got film now. And so I've done the hard thing. See, people say, well, okay, look at what I've done with the resources. I've never really, the only time I had a job that really was kind of paying me was at Howard when I worked with HMM. I haven't, Johnson ain't paying me no money. They didn't pay me no money at the University of Notre Dame, not really. I was at Notre Dame for 2 years. I did a film called Don't Be No Fool, Stay in School. No, it was a film about seniors, getting seniors to get their high school diploma. And we would interview the seniors, and we did commercials. We produced 30 commercials. I made sure each one of those, it was like 10, 5 and 5, and then they brought in 10 more, younger people. And my final report wasn't even that, was don't be no fool, because I figured, hey. And the guy who was who put the program together, he knew theoretically. He was a theoretician, but he didn't know how to deal with practical. So what he did was he took the first group, and he took that group and he gave me the new group, because then the first group could teach him practical. Okay, it's not question. It's
So, Roy, just bring it back home in terms of what do you think people should be doing with their photo images? You mentioned that Kodak is doing things with yours.
No. Kodak ain't doing nothing. I said that was a proposal, possibility.
In terms of proposals, but it's so important that people consider, what they have and how they're going to preserve it and pass it on. So all this work that you have.
How long are we going? No. How long are we going?
We're going to take some questions here.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, so you don't want to answer that one right now.
Now, it's like this.
Okay. All right. Can we, go ahead, Linda.
Okay, so quickly, and boy, this is so important, so I don't want you to gloss over it. Did you mention that Sterling Brown had said that any of the pictures you took of him would belong to you? Okay, and that's fine, but I'm wondering, did you get that in writing? But it's so important for everybody in this room to understand that we have to make plans for our materials, right?
Right.
We can't just hope that something will get done.
Right.
What I'm hoping, what I'd like to know is, do you have your literary or artistic executor in place?
No.
And that question that Eric keeps asking you is so important for everybody, so.
Let me say this.
And there are other photographers in the house, who have lots of good work.
Mm-hmm.
And we want our stories to be passed on, so they can be told, because like, people who come behind us are gonna see what we leave and write stories about us in this period of time. And if we don't have a place where people can find these things, it's gonna be lost history. We're already going through that.
My thing is Roy Lewis Archives. And Roy Lewis Archives. Roy Lewis Archive. Yes, it's an archive. It's physically, it exists. Okay. Yeah, they're not in order, but what I told you, I wrote on the film. I have, most of my film is in my house. I don't like that. I have not had the funds to deal with a studio, a staff. People say, well, get interns. You cannot bring no interns up in your house. You gotta have a place, you gotta have security, and negatives are very thin. Okay? And so what I'm saying is that everybody keeps talking about the book. I started having book pictures and encyclopedias in the 60s. I sold 40 images to African American Encyclopedia, Salem Press out of Pasadena, 7 volumes, $75. That's what they're selling it for. They came back to me 10 years later, and they did another volume with 50 pictures. That's a book within those encyclopedias, and since we've been sitting here, there could be students all over the world looking at my pictures. I have a full-page picture of Spike Lee when he was rolling on that film, Malcolm. He met his wife here, okay, at CBC. But what I'm saying is that for a long time, the whole deal of people painting my works, I am trying to keep moving. I am dealing with the lawyers now. I'm trying to get the resources so that I can begin to put some walls around my collection, okay? But it's just me.
Yeah, and that's what happens a lot of times, It's just, and in terms of getting so many things in place, it takes a lot of time and energy. Let's move on to another question. Paula?
Pamela.
Pamela, sorry.
So, full disclosure, I'm Roy's homegirl. I'm from Jackson, Mississippi, and Roy and I have been, we're kindred souls, and even though he's the age of my parents, we're kindred souls. So Roy, I want you to tell them, just, Roy,
Yeah.
the little time that
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
we've
ma'am.
been together,
Yes, ma'am.
He's a friend of my aunt's. You have to pick one, because we don't have time to go through both. Either talk about the Million Man March, or talk about Hurricane Katrina, but you were so mindful on both of those. And I'll just share with you all, I have this conversation about legacy, succession, and joy every year. So we're working on it. I'm trying to find him a brain.
And it takes a village, and it takes people who see what he has, that might be willing to work with him with something along. There's other people like that.
So either Million Man March or.
Yeah, I like, wow, man, that's hard. Ooh. I'm gonna say Million Man March. Because, one, we never thought we would get together. I mean, I don't think that anybody ever thought that a million men would be here, men and women. But I was working with them, and I was on my way to go to Fritz's funeral, and brother gave me the assignment to assess the press on what they wanted, you know, what the press wanted. And of course, Bob and all the photographers said, we want full access. They weren't able to give everybody full access. But to be out there that day and to be right next to Monita Sleep, he was right here. I went into the Capitol with the mayor, Smoke of Baltimore. He was going, I just got right in with him. And went to the speaker's floor up there. What's his name? Was speaker then, the guys anyway. I went there and he had a balcony, and so they were letting the white crews, the white boys go through, so I just went on out there and was able to, though they wouldn't even let me put the lens through that bird nest, so I had to shoot the net in. But being out there that day, I got out there early to listen to that call to prayer, and yeah, and it was wonderful. I left before Minister Farrakhan finished his speech, because I had to go to the lab to get it processed, okay? And a similar kind of thing would happen with Ms. Brooks. I went in on Friday, because I wanted to just, you know, say goodbye. And the people that didn't come in on Friday, they didn't get there because on Sunday, they had a big, huge snowstorm. And so we took, it's in the jet, about 5 or 6 pages, we took all the way to the grave. And, but Katrina, man, I was in the lower 9 for 3 hours with no mask. And there were no hospitals, you know. So I went to a clinic where they did massage, regular medicine, and all kinds of acupuncture. And they gave me some medicine. And I went back to the VA, they said, yeah, your chest is clear, but you have bronchitis. And now I talked to somebody who said bronchitis is the virus. You know, it's the virus. I know when I have it because I sweat at night. I begin to sweat. They have medicine for it, but it's really strong, you know, it's really, really strong.
Cynthia?
During the press check, did they list all of the groups and organizations, or
Yes, they had everything. Now, I'm talking about our group. Yeah, I'm talking about our group.
So there were different groups from across the U.S. that.
From the world. In other words, we had committees. In other words, Detroit, that drill team did not just come. Those theater groups.
We have the drill team, civil model research.
Right,
Detroit.
right. But there was a selection committee, and so a lot of people didn't go because their work or whatever, you know, it didn't. And then we paid for, I think we paid for the trip, okay? And so, right. So I went down in December in Katrina. Part of the city was dark, still dark. And I was asked for economy, and it was late at night, and they didn't have no more cars. They gave me a 150, a Ford 150 for the same price. So I was back and forth to Natchez because I was in my brother's house down in upper 9. It started raining and blah, 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 blah. I went out there and put my stuff in that truck and headed to Natchez. You know, and so she and I I drove her down to New Orleans. We stopped at her school. Right. And I was photographing all the markings and the cars and whatever. It's New Orleans. I was going to actually move to New Orleans. But after Katrina, I said no, because I know photographers who lost all their legs and cameras. And Keith Calhoun was throwing away the slides that had stuck together. His son said, no, don't throw them away. Now he's got a book out with those stuck together. It's artistic. It's very artistic.
Roy, tell people some of the names of the photography books where some of your work can be seen.
Photography books?
Yeah. Do you have?
I have a West Wall, which I did the West Wall. I'm not in a lot of. I'm into books that are, I have publications. I'm into some of the Ebony books,
Okay.
Songs of My People, Million Man March. No, what I've done, it's interesting how much people deal with the books. You have a book, you might say 5,000, 10,000 copies, 20,000. But in the Ebony, and Sterling did the same thing, he did articles in research journals and reviews and criticisms and, but don't think that I'm not interested in a book, and I'm working hard on 2 or 3 of them right now. Everywhere with Roy Lewis. I want to do one on Sterling, and then I got a Million Man March. I'm not a Million Man March, but River Road on the environment. So I've always been conscious. It's just that when you're working and when you don't have time, for example, River Road is down there. I'm in D.C., so I couldn't, so it's resources. If I had resources, I know what I have done with the little resources I have. When I look at all these negatives, all these prints, I've gotten maybe $20,000 in my whole lifetime in grants. I gotta, but what I've done, been able to do, let me tell you, it ain't been easy. And I had 3 children, so it's not been easy.
Roy has probably photographs, and you can tell me whether that is true. Just about every mayor in the city.
No, I did start with Washington, and what was the next one? Barry. Oh yeah, Barry. I covered. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm tired, y'all. I'm tired. I'm really tired. I mean, I had to. I'm really, really tired. I'm leaving here.
But I wanted you to know that, in terms of covering local history, he's covered a lot of local history. Charles.
I'd like to say thank you very much for all my aunts and great aunts in small towns and little places all across America. That when they looked at your pictures, they gave them hope as black people in little small island places that you might never see or know about. And those pictures coming from big cities like D.C., Chicago, New York, gave those black people in those small cities and our place hope. I just want to thank you for that. And one question I have is, did you take pictures of January 6th when all of those white people came to Washington?
Yeah, I went down there December.
Right.
I didn't go January. I went December, and I had a feeling that there was no, that's that. When they came, see, the December was a test for January 6th. It was a test run for January 6th because what happened is they went to the Hill and then they saw how easy it was to walk across the grounds and over to the Supreme Court. So when they came in, I met a dude who said, yeah, it's coming. The Proud Boys. There were black Proud Boys, I saw them in the formation. I mean, we were down at on 14th Street, and I'm taking pictures of them going by. And, the dude looked at me, I said, oh, really? I said, I ain't scared, y'all. Y'all see this? This is the big red one. This is the big red one. We are not afraid. And so I just look right back at him.
December what? What date?
December, it was, I don't know, first part of December, and then January 6th came. Yeah.
We have another question here, man, sir. You want to stand up? So
Right here.
Roy, I want to thank you on behalf of the Interstate Community and Churches Recognizing Baptist Convention.
Ladies and gentlemen.
For all that you have done over the years to really lift up and document the movement of progressive pastors, not only in this city, but throughout the country. And I just want to just commend you.
He's talking about Progressive National Baptist, which is the group that came out of National Baptist, because they put Dr. King out of National Baptist. I started working with them in '90, the same year I started working with Roloff Barnes here. There's another person in this town that is doing a great job. She's following, not in no footsteps, but she's following, anyway, her father, Calvin Roloff. Mr. Roloff asked me to come down one day. He said, Roy, would you come over and work with us, help us out? Because like I said, I've been black newspaper in Mississippi, Jet Ebony, and then I worked for a lot of, organizations, and I've worked for Progressive for 30-some years, and we travel all over the place. Hey, Reverend Pierce, yesterday when you called me, the sister who ran the school, she and her friends were coming out of the Mayflower. Why you called me? I was literally take a picture of her. What was her name? Gladys? I don't.
The one who runs the school, who used to run the school?
Yeah, while I was there. She was the principal.
Hayes?
Right.
Shirley Hayes.
Shirley Hayes.
We have time for one more question.
Hi, Roy Lewis. I'm a visual artist, and I'm going to say this name first, then I'll pose my question. Georgette Seabrook Powell. Okay. So, back in the days, particularly when I was active with her, the 80s and the 90s, and
Yeah.
used to always be at so
Right.
many of those nonprofits. She did Tomorrow's World Art Center, it was that organization
Mhm.
she had done. And there were so many exhibitions that she would always be there.
She would always be there.
Photographs, but it was always hard to get back to you to say, Brother Lewis, can I get a picture of this? Because the administrative part of the photography, I know is difficult, and I hear that's how it is for a lot of photographers.
Well,
But I guess my point is, when you were doing, you were devoted to her, and that you would always show up for her things.
Right.
As a result, we'd get in the paper.
right.
So, can you reflect on how you did some of those kinds of art scenes for her or other artists in the area also? Thank you.
Rick Powell was the drummer with Donny Hathaway. And so I stayed with Rick in Miami when I went down. But I'm really glad you asked the question, because I was looking at some pictures. I'm going through my collection, and I have a picture of her. She was actually on the committee of the arts thing here that me and Frank Smith and we won an award to do the Stables Art Building, the lobby. A lot of people don't know about that. That was one of the most progressive. But I have some pictures of her in New York at the Schomburg with the Lady Did the Dime and a couple other, and then I've got her also here. And so if you got a contact with her daughters are still here? Okay, so you make sure, because I want to at least get some of those to them. My thing now is getting some of the people's history to them, so that then they can pass it along. But I can't give pictures away anymore. No, I'm not, it's not, but I'm just saying, it's like I'm looking for resources. And the fact that I've been able to do what I have done with the resources that I have, because a lot of these gigs, they're not pay gigs. I go because I think it's important history. Yeah, so.
Roy Lewis everywhere, right?